Picture the hum of a 1970s factory floor, machines pounding, workers in hard hats, sweat on their brows, but hope in their hearts. Now, fast forward to today, office workers tapping away at laptops, gig workers delivering packages, drivers racing across cities. The world has changed dramatically, but here's a shocking truth. If the average American worker's wages had kept up with productivity since the 1970s, the typical paycheck today would be more than double what it actually is. Think about that. Double your current paycheck. Instead, after adjusting for inflation, most workers are earning roughly the same as they did 50 years ago. So, what went wrong? Why have wages stayed flat for so long, even though the economy itself has more than doubled in size? Let's peel back the layers and see what really happened to the American paycheck. The golden age of wages. After World War II, America entered a remarkable era of growth. From the late 1940s through the early 1970s, wages for the average American worker climbed steadily. Productivity, how much we produce in each hour of work, rose consistently, and wages rose right alongside it. It was almost a perfect partnership. As the country built more, workers earned more. This was the golden age of the American middle class, a time often romanticized in old photos of suburbs sprouting up, families buying homes, kids running through sprinkler-drenched lawns. For many families, the formula was simple. One steady job could support a home, a car, a vacation now and then, and even send the kids to college. Debt existed, of course, but it wasn't the lifeline it would later become. People genuinely felt that if they worked hard, they could climb the ladder and secure a brighter future for their children. But then, in the mid-1970s, something snapped. Productivity kept growing, but wages stopped keeping pace. That once synchronized dance between hard work and fair pay suddenly went out of rhythm. The productivity-wage gap. To understand this shift, look at the numbers. Imagine a line graph. One line shoots upward, representing productivity, while another line, wages, flattens out. Since 1973, productivity in the United States has soared by over 70. That means workers are producing far more value per hour today than their parents or grandparents did. But wages? They've barely budged. That growing gap between productivity and pay isn't just abstract economics. It represents trillions of dollars of value created by workers that somehow never reach their pockets. Instead of trickling down, that wealth flowed somewhere else. The big question is, where? The usual suspects. The story of wage stagnation isn't simple, but several powerful forces reshaped the economy and shifted rewards away from ordinary workers. First, the decline of unions. Back in the 1950s, about 1 in 3 American workers was a union member. Unions were the backbone of bargaining power. They negotiated higher pay, secured benefits like healthcare and pensions, and gave workers a collective voice. But as decades passed, union membership fell dramatically. Today, only about 1 in 10 workers belongs to a union. Without that collective power, workers found themselves negotiating alone against corporate giants. And when bargaining power eroded, so did wages. Next, globalization. Starting in the late 20th century, the global economy opened up in unprecedented ways. Companies realized they could outsource manufacturing jobs to countries where labor was much cheaper. Entire industries, once thriving in places like Detroit, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland, were hollowed out. American factory jobs disappeared, replaced by cheaper overseas labor. Consumers got lower prices at stores, but the cost was high. The loss of stable, well-paying jobs at home. Even workers who weren't in manufacturing felt the pressure. How could you ask for a raise when your boss could point across the ocean to someone willing to do your job for far less? Then came technology and automation. Machines, robots, and software replaced countless routine tasks. Factory assembly lines once staffed by people are now dominated by robots. Clerical jobs were wiped out by office software. Even retail and service industries saw the rise of self-checkout systems and digital platforms. While technology boosted overall productivity, the benefits didn't flow evenly. The owners of machines and the executives of tech companies reaped the rewards, while ordinary workers often saw their roles diminished or eliminated altogether. Finally, policy choices played a huge role. Beginning in the 1980s, the US government embraced policies that favored corporations and the wealthy. Tax cuts for the richest Americans and large companies, deregulation of industries, and weaker labor protections tilted the playing field. These weren't accidental outcomes. They were deliberate choices shaped by lobbying, campaign contributions, and shifting political ideologies. The result was clear. Economic gains flowed upward, leaving the average worker with a paycheck that barely stretched further than it had decades before. Who benefited? So, if workers didn't share in the rising productivity, who pocketed the gains? The answer is clear: the wealthiest Americans. CEO pay, for instance, has exploded since the 1970s. While the typical worker's wages stagnated, executive compensation rose more than 1,000. Stockholders benefited as corporate profits surged, dividends swelled, and share prices climbed. The structure of the economy shifted to reward capital over labor. In other words, those who owned assets, companies, or investments saw their wealth multiply, while those who earned a paycheck saw little change. The pie grew enormously, but the average worker's slice remained the same size, or in relative terms, even shrank. This growing imbalance is one of the main reasons why wealth inequality in America today is at levels not seen since the Gilded Age. The consequences. Wage stagnation isn't just an economic statistic. It's reshaped everyday life in America. Costs for housing, education, and healthcare skyrocketed over the last 50 years, but paychecks didn't keep up. Families who once thrived on a single income now often require two full-time earners just to stay afloat. Many rely on credit cards, mortgages, and student loans to fill the gap, leading to record levels of household debt. Young people graduate into adulthood saddled with tens of thousands of dollars in loans, often delaying milestones like buying a home or starting a family. Meanwhile, gig work, driving, delivering, freelancing, has become the stopgap for many trying to patch together a living. The dream of stable, middle-class security has slipped further out of reach, replaced by financial anxiety and widening inequality. Is there a way out? The picture may seem bleak, but it doesn't have to stay that way. History shows that wage stagnation is not inevitable. It's the result of choices, and choices can be changed. Some argue that revitalizing unions is key, giving workers back the collective bargaining power they've lost. Others push for raising the minimum wage so that work, at its most basic level, pays enough to live on. Some advocate for profit-sharing models, where employees receive a slice of the value they help create. Policy ideas like universal healthcare could also reduce the burden on wages by lowering out-of-pocket expenses for families. The question isn't whether solutions exist, but whether there's enough political will and public pressure to make them happen. So the next time you find yourself wondering why it feels harder to get ahead than it did for your parents or grandparents, remember, it's not just you. Wages have been stagnant for decades, even as the economy grew and productivity soared. The story of the American paycheck is one of growth without reward, effort without proportional return. But the future isn't written yet. The question is, what will we do about it? Will we continue to accept a system where workers create immense value without seeing the benefits, or will we demand change? If this breakdown opened your eyes, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more insights. Share your thoughts in the comments. Together, we can push the conversation on wages and equality forward.